this is what we call a Lego mock. So you make something out of Lego. These coloured things here, that's Flexo. And it was a 16-year-old, he designed this tiny little bit in here and gives independent suspension. You can take that outside and run it over rocks. And because Lego is so dominant in construction, you know, it's the largest toy company in the world today. Wow. in one market category called brick construction. I mean, they've rewritten history. They have done a magnificent job, and we respect them so much. And we thought, well, we want to not copy Lego. We wanted to enhance the Lego experience. So many people out there who start in the brick business are just copycats. You know, they bring out a brick or a construction set, and that Lego is already making that. But we turned around and said, no, we want to enhance that experience. So brick construction today, as we see it, is fixed brick construction. That means you place one brick on top of another and it's fixed. So we said that's already done, marvelously done by Lego, and we salute them, absolutely. And by the way, we do have a relationship with them, okay? We know them and they know us. But we said, the concept that we birthed was, why can't we make Lego or a brick construction system flexible and move it around rather than it being fixed? And that's where it all started. But the light bulb moment came in, as you may have read on the website, with regard to that physio appointment. And I looked at the human body, and I just had one of those magnificent moments where I marveled at the human body, which didn't have the skin, and you had the tendons, the ligaments, the bones. And I was just taken in that light bulb moment to watching a girl in the Olympics on the floor, you know, the gymnastics on the floor, the tumbling. Mm-hmm. And the human body is just an amazing design, something very special. And I said, well, look at all those stiff bones, and yet the beautiful flexibility that I saw. And then there, that little light bulb moment came on and said, why couldn't I take bricks and bend them like that? And my first dream was to get a bow and arrow. I wanted to get a Lego construction set, which they don't make bow and arrows, by the way, but just the bricks. And then I wanted to flex that. And after a fair amount of trial and interesting pain, I developed a bow and arrow that shoots 25 meters.
Really? Like a physical weapon, a tool that can fire?
Yeah. But that, once we saw that, we started to uncover, wow, you could do this, you could do that. We went in the universe of play, of flexible play, not fixed brick construction. And that's what makes us so different. And we have the privilege of also exhibiting in Lego exhibitions, you know, because we're enhancing their beautiful construction play, and we're adding another dimension of play if people wish to go there. We're not competing. We have no interest in competing.
I think that was the amazing thing about it, is that you came up with the concept, and Mark is very, very good at taking a concept and then thinking of how you could do it, and then actually being able to do it. And I think he's got you know, those manufacturing skills, and he knows what can be done and what can't be done. But that was the amazing thing about Flexo. It was like, oh my goodness, look, it can do this. Oh wow, we can make this. And it's like, it's got a life of its own, and it's just grown and grown. And to me, it's like you've got 4 bricks, 4 different, you know, size bricks, different shape bricks. You've got 4 lengths of tendon, and you can think of anything and you can basically build it. And that's just been amazing. And I like, in our family, sometimes with our kids, we'd say, oh, let's have a Lego night, and we'd, you know, get the Lego out and we'd make things, and I'd go, oh, I just wasn't motivated to make something. I just kind of couldn't think of anything to make or whatever. But with the Flexo, I was like, oh, I can do this with it, or I can do that with it. And it just takes on, for me, it took on a completely different life of its own, because I could suddenly bend it, flex it. It was almost like stitching. You know, you could make material with it and then do what you wanted with it. And so it was really interesting how different it was for me. Yeah, and then we learned.
Example, this is what we call a Lego mock. So you make something out of Lego, and it's fantastic. But these coloured things here in the back there, that's Flexo. And it was a 16-year-old man. I should call him a man, because if he listens to that, if I call him a boy, he might be a bit offended.
You'll get in trouble, yeah.
Yeah, but he designed this tiny little bit in here and gives independent suspension.
Ah, so that gives the flexibility in the wheels, so it can actually work the way you need it to work on the rough terrain.
And you can take that outside and run it over rocks. It really is fantastic. Then you can come and you can make a little cute rat, which, you know, that's Flexo. That's not fixed. That is just squeezable, playable. Love it.
What
and non-breakable. You can, doesn't break.
And I think that's what's appealed to me about your product. And it wasn't really, I didn't really get it in full until I had it in my hands. And I was at a friend's house in Auckland staying while I was up there on business, and it was the Friday night. And I'd visited one of your production areas where you put together the Flexo, and one of your guys there had given me a set, and it was a fish. And I thought, this is great. I'm going to see how this works with my friend's 2 daughters. Like, who's going to take it on? Is it the 8-year-old or the 11-year-old? And I said, I've got this. It's like Lego, but it's flexible. Do you want to put it together before dinner? And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. And so I start working with a little bit of it. They start working with a little bit of it. And what was fascinating was you really need to think about it too. If you want to follow the plan, there's a lot of playtime to it. But what's different about it versus Lego is, I think with some of those bigger sets you've got, like the Inventor, there's no prescribed way of doing it. It's not trying to complete it the way someone else has designed it. You can decide on which direction it's going to go. So that's a long way of kind of saying, if there's those 2 different markets, it's one, you know, paint by numbers, make what we've decided is a great thing like a fish or like a dragon, versus invent whatever you want. How much of each is within, let's say, the New Zealand market that is part of your offering?
That would be really from the Lego shows, because you really, you know, at the Lego shows, the kids would just come and we'd have a make and take table, and they'd spend hours there, but it was a great opportunity to observe the kids actually playing with it and what they did with it and who did what. And I think you said that 20% of kids come and they just want to do what's in their head and make what they want to make. And then there'd be about 80%, would you say, that actually needed to have something to copy or something to, you know, they needed to have something to copy with it.
They would like, because it's new for them, they would like to be led with it. Instructions. And that's predominantly a Lego. You know, so many of the boys will come to the table, for an example, and they'll put Flexo bricks and start to build
like
Lego, fixed brick construction. And we say, no, we're here to show you that you can make a ball. You can kick it around. You can throw against the wall. You can throw it against your mate's head, and he won't get hurt. You know, but it is a fun toy, and because it's so radically new, people are. There's 20% who just grab it straight away. You can't even talk to them and say, well, what about this and that, because they're in the world of imagination. There is a group that sit in that 80% who will touch it, play with it, and then get the idea, oh my goodness, I can make whatever I like in my head. And they start to like riding a bike. Once they've learned a little bit, they're gone. And then there will always be a chunk of people, and we don't know what that percentage is, that just will follow instructions and will be happy with completing a product, as you said, which is somebody else's design. But we're more interested in the self-creation, the imagination inside of yourself to say, hey guys, with 4 brick shapes, it's all it is. It's the 4 brick shapes and 4 tendons. You can make a rat, a ball, you can make Lego do stuff it can never have done before with independent suspension. You can make hats, shoes, belts, ties.
Don't forget my handbags.
Handbags. You should see the handbags. Oh my goodness, we've got great handbags.
I have seen that there was a rainbow purse I think you had there, and the other thing I saw that I found was just amazing was there was a pink pig in it. It had that complete rotund shape to it. That's the one. That really.
It was a piggy bank, and then I turned it into a purse. It's good to help myself.
And I think what's hard for those people who are listening right now, we're kind of looking at some of the various shapes you can make with Flexo, and there's a key element that's different if you haven't used if you're used to Lego but you haven't seen Flexo, and it's those rubber pieces in between, and they're in different lengths too, aren't they? There's like a small, medium, and a large, if I recall, and depending on the size or is it the size or the color that depends on how rigid it is?
Yeah, so a really good point that you bring up. This is where you have to start thinking when you are starting to create in 3-dimensional space, not putting a brick on a brick. That's a 2-dimensional playground. This is building in 3D. 2-dimension does go to 3-dimensional shape, but we actually create in the 3-dimension, and you have to think when you're wanting to bend things. For an example, like this is my favorite one because Elizabeth made that, and I wanted to copy it, so I tried to make it another one, and I said, gosh, who would have thought, how did you do that? And you look at the wings, curving out, the style, that's all done with those tendons and deciding the length of what it is. But just to help answer your question, we have, at the moment, we're going to bring out in 2021 a new tendon, really exciting, all right? But we have what we call a reflex tendon. It's a silicon tendon, you can't break it, and it's for catapults. It's all for the boys. The boys just love that. You can make a gun, you can just propel anything. And this, by the way, this suspension here that you see here, that's reflex. So they're silicon tendons. Then we have what we call modeling tendons, which are more for this type of thing. And next year we're going to come out, and I can't really say what it is because it's top secret, but in principle, we'll come out with a family of tendons where your imagination, you can build pot plants, you can build anything that you so wish. And just I love this backpack. This is and we start to put inside frames, so we're able to craft inside brick construction, and then we make backpacks, so a person can wear that as a backpack and customize it, totally customize it, so you've got a unique item that nobody else has.
Elizabeth, what are some of the things that you've seen in the Flexo community through, I don't know, like YouTube or through social media, some of the inventions that have come your way and you've gone, wow, I never thought that what Mark and myself have created would end up creating this next derivative of play?
Well,
not the names.
Yeah, we can't say the names, and we've got something very, very exciting that somebody's done, and that she has made a dress for the WOW Awards, and unfortunately, of course, it wasn't on this year, so she's saving it for next year. So we can't we're not allowed to say too much about it because otherwise she can't put it in, and we're not allowed to show photos or anything like that. But we had the privilege of going and seeing it, and it's just. Wow! It's wow! It's really wow! It's just incredible.
42,000 pieces.
But you couldn't do that with Lego. I mean, it had Lego pieces on it, but you couldn't have made it, to fit a person and all the rest of it if without Flexo. It's incredible. It was really amazing to see, and it fitted the model, and she had to climb into it, didn't she? And but it was incredible. That really, really blew us away.
Big trail behind, so it flows like material, and that's that's the universe that we've come, and we love connecting with Lego. In fact, Lego's got so many exciting bricks. Why would I want to make those bricks? I just go and say, get your Lego. What we've got is a foundation that is very, very different than fixed brick construction.
But I think the other thing, I'm a play centre mum, so I love watching kids play with stuff, you know, and just watching what they do with it. And for me, I love seeing how, you know, a kid will do something different with it. You know, they'll think of something that you could never have thought of. Well, there's been a few things like that when you've gone to the shows, isn't there, where you go, oh wow, look what this child's done with this.
So the dragon, the dragon has morphed from a kid who came in and built. We finished it off with the wings, all right. But I was blown away to say what an imagination, and this curvature is all about the tendon size and so forth. We've got an 18-year-old girl who in Wellington who sent us up a spherical ball. You know, you can have a rugby ball, literally. In fact, I should have had one here, and you can literally kick it around, and you put a balloon in it, and that's the bladder. And honestly, it's so much fun. I mean, out of four brick shapes, you can make round balls, rugby balls, you can make dragons, you can make pigs, you can make suspension.
Christmas
decoration, and it just goes on.
I mean, it's just, and then it's like, oh, we can make belts, and then you, one of the girls made shoes.
A pair of shoes, and you can't wear them on concrete because you know the plastic won't last and the tendon won't last. But you can wear it on carpet around your house. A pair of shoes that you make yourself.
And then I loved the teapot too. I thought that was very cool. I could just see, you know, little girls really enjoying the tea party, and cakes. That was another one that one of our.
So, our girls and the people who work here, they all are making. They come back. Monday morning is a great day for me because who's made what, you know.
So that's the other part of the challenge, isn't it? Is that you've created this system where almost anything's possible because it's not just two-dimensional, it's not just square, it's round, and it's not just rigid, it's flexible. There's all of these new dimensions. How much do you push your own innovation path on creating the sets, the pre-built models, the foil packs to follow on, versus how much do you just sit back and let the community do its thing?
Yes, that is such an amazing and good question, because we too had to learn. You know, it's easy to enter the space of brick construction and say, oh yeah, I've got something different. It's fine. But you have a giant called Lego who sets the standard, and man, that is a magnificent standard. You know, you just have to be in awe of them at that standard. Now, if you come in and you try to do something new and very innovative, it's going to take a long time for you to woo and win over certain, you know, a chunk of the market. It's not going to be an overnight success. It took Lego 60 years to get where they got today, and they had their troubles in their journey to get where they did. But they got through. It's a long journey, brick construction. It's not a fad thing. It truly is a STEAM learning experience. It's not a widget, you know, that comes and goes, or a fad or something like that. This is truly an educational learning thing, where I think a lot of the boys who've grown up with Lego have become engineers because they have, at the ages of 6 or even earlier, the Duplo, they start really, really early. They have built confidence in the child that they can make things. They may be following instructions, but in principle, there's still free play in Lego. We're trying to do more free play. We're trying to tap into the imagination. But I have had to go and follow the Lego experience of creating theme play, like the Ocean Life, and the Inventor set, which was more free play, but people wanted the spider. They bought the box because they wanted the spider on it. And I'm going, no, that wasn't what we actually set out to sell there. We set out as an example of what you could do. And it's been a hard journey. We've had to invest in instructions. That's been a cruel and expensive process. Lego, got to salute them. They've got the best instructions in the world. You know, it's beautiful. We had to come in with instructions, but now represent on a piece of paper 3-dimensional construction. That is not easy. But we've just done a deal with an American company, and we're working really hard. But we wooed them, and they chose us out of all the brick construction companies to walk with us, co-branding in the US. And we plunged and decided we'll get the instructions sorted once and for all. And I'm very, very proud of our team that we've produced the first class instructions of 3-dimensional building. Wasn't easy though.
I think what you're doing, it's really exciting because there's a couple of things that strike me about the business model side of it. One is, while Lego has gone more into the licensed branded merch to turn around their company, I think it was mid 2010s when their stock was flatlining, and then once they'd done the licensing with some of the the big brands like the Disney or Star Wars, they just catapulted up. But the young boy inside me was thinking, the way I got started in Lego wasn't by mimicking what a particular Star Wars character did. It was just, there was, mum and dad had given the two of us just a box of Lego, and it was ragtag, secondhand. There was no sets to make. We had there was nothing to be prescribed. And so that then leads me on to the second part of where I think what you've got is really exciting is it gives Lego a brand new way to resell all of its 2-dimensional Lego to enable your 3-dimensional shapes, which then brings, if that's the foundation for kids to become engineers, now maybe there's a possibility for more kids to become the architect like Zaha Hadid, who made everything in fluid shapes. It wasn't 2-dimensional. And she was laughed at by her architectural colleagues. How has this been taken up within the early childhood centres, the kindergartens, high schools for prototypes, even business? So where has it gone beyond just the home and the families buying this?
So we've got partnerships with the House of Science, and Office Max, who does the schooling educational side.
We've got an education pack.
We've got an education pack. We've got a Flexo fundraising pack, and that's been very, very exciting. We went to schools and said, hey, do you want to fundraise, but do it in a way that isn't so painful as every parent has experienced with this. I won't say what the brand is or anything like that. We've all done it.
We'll get fat on it.
Yeah, we do, and so forth. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take the pain out of it. You're not going to outlay a cent. This is our social response back to communities that we believe in, like schools wanting to fundraise, where we will share the profit that is bought when the product is bought by the consumer. The school gets a percentage of that, and it's a large percentage. So we actually just break even to cover costs. But the school has no risk. Sometimes schools, if they want to make, $10,000, they have to outlay 15. Yeah. They make their 15 plus they get another 10. And I'm saying, no, you can go straight up to go for 20 and it doesn't cost you a cent, because I'm going to fund that. But you have to work in partnership with me. And this is where we just so love this program. It's the kids. It's the school kids that sell it. And we come in and we do make and take tables, and they fall in love with it, get it in the hands of children, and they just fall in love with it. And they then sell it. And we've had huge success.
I want to go back to the point that you made there, though, about Lego, inspiring people to do stuff when they're older, to be engineers, to be architects or whatever, because that's the other thing that we realised quite early on is how, in fact, that we've got statistics that, the girls often want to be architects, often want to be engineers, but when you look at the statistics, who actually becomes the girls is actually very low. They don't actually, it doesn't translate from wanting to be to actually being. And we think one of the reasons for that is that because the Lego has tried really hard to get the girl market, and they've done the pink things, and they've done houses, and they've done lots of different things to try and draw the girls in, but girls do tend to work more with flexible materials. And again, I saw that in myself, that suddenly it was like, oh my goodness, I can do this. And it just sparked my creativity in a way that fixed construction doesn't. And that for us is one of the exciting things too about Flexo, is that we want to encourage the girls to do it because they think in a different way. And that's kind of, it's not just girls, it's people that think in a flexible way, who have that creativity bent to be like in a flexible way. And to encourage them, to give them the confidence to say, no, there is another way of doing stuff. And we're actually missing that whole sector in the architecture and engineering. There could be so many things that we're missing because we haven't got those people who are the flexible creators. So that for us is another really exciting thing of it. I don't know whether I've explained that very well.
No, I think you're, I mean, absolutely, because like I look at the Flexo in the background there that you've got. It's hats, it's jewelry, it's bags, it's things that you can wear or hold or dress or pick up. That's a different set to what Mark was just talking about before, which is the silicon tendon that will enable to load, unload, fire, project. They're different ways of playing, and they don't have to be gender specific, but that what you just said about the free flowing of shapes, if that was something that was default in play from the age of 3 to 12, what does that mean for us as a society? And I think that's the journey you're currently on, and no one knows yet what the answer to that is.
No, it does get me really excited, that, yeah.
And we're exploring it as we go.
Yeah.
So it's not like we've got this all sorted, It has been an incredible joy to watch it morph and move, and we do see it. We do have very clear ideas where it's going to go. It all does sit in the tendon, and we're going to come out with world-changing concepts to brick construction. And we've already got that patented, and there's 5 years of work just sitting there. Our problem is we're underinvested. We haven't got the cash to bring that to market, but it's coming. It's coming, and next year will be another style of tendon that allows you to do just remarkable things. Just absolutely, is what can't believe what you can do.
Another thing that was surprising to us, perhaps to me because I'm not the business person, Mark's the one with all the business experience, but it's, you think, oh, toys, that must be a nice sort of industry, but it's actually a really hard industry to work in, isn't it? It's a very cutthroat and quite stunted in some ways as well.
Yeah, it's for the big boys today. That they've gone, the manufacturing is mass production. Mm-hmm. And look, that's a whole different ball game in terms of mass production versus innovative, creative products like the old days, the local toy maker in the village. He didn't sell, overseas or anything. He made toys for the village that he worked in. And there was a lot of creativity and so forth. And I think with the advent of moving so much manufacturing offshore, we've paid a price where we don't see innovation too much. I don't think there's any toy design and manufacture here in New Zealand. It would be in wooden toys, but I'm not quite sure. Certainly I don't know about plastic toys. Got to be very careful what I say there, but I think everything is made in China or over the border, outside of New Zealand, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And I've got 3 icons in New Zealand that inspire me, and one is Fisher & Paykel Healthcare. Absolutely. They manufacture right in the backyard here, and they've got the world, in their hand. And the other person who I admire so much is the steamer. How do you sell plastic lunch boxes in the UK, for heaven's sake? Because he was actually really good at what he did. And then there's one other fella that I really admire, and I've actually worked for him, and that's Bill Buckley, who manufactures iron implantation electromagnets. And people go, what are they? Well, he's a Kiwi that says, I will manufacture in New Zealand. I am not going overseas. Now, there are certain products you can manufacture, and there are certain products you should not manufacture in New Zealand, because we don't have, it's about knowing your market and servicing the world, and we can do that still from New Zealand. And brick construction, this very, very nice product to manufacture in New Zealand, because freighting is not an issue. Don't ever, if you hear people saying, oh, well, you're too far away from your market, yeah, there may be market barriers that the country wants to set in, other words, forcing you to manufacture inside the country. But if there's no barriers there, we can effectively manufacture here in New Zealand and sell overseas. And we are doing that. 95% of our revenue is in Canada and in the US.
Which makes sense, because those are big markets, and they're big markets for Lego, and this is an augmentation of that. How much of your product, because there's also a big market with, the very advanced Lego makers, that make the Big Bens, and I remember going to one in London where I think the branding said there's over 20 million pieces of Lego that have been put together to make some of these exhibitions. Have they picked up on this Flexo product to augment what they're doing at that very advanced level of construction?
Not yet.
No, I think what happens when you get a branded product and you brand to become world known, every household knows Lego, there becomes a brand loyalty, and a lot of very creative people cannot and will not look outside the Lego brick.
Yeah,
they become very, very loyal. I mean, you got to salute Lego again to say, fantastic strategy. You've got loyalty, brand loyalty to you. But I think, again, we're not competing with them at all. We're enhancing the universe of construction play. And I know that Lego enjoys that. They are not scared of anybody or anything. They are creative people themselves. So we will trottle along in our journey, and it's going to take time. And we've been at it for 3 years. And I'm looking forward to my fifth in one day. Hopefully we're still there. But
just but on that point, when we've gone to the Lego shows, like when we first went to the Lego shows, though, you could see the real, people who are very what would you call purists, Lego purists, and were kind of, oh, what's this, But now they've really, a lot of them have really embraced it, because they can see, oh my goodness, like if I use a bit of Flexo in here, I can do this with it. So there has been a change, I think, there, in that a lot of them can see, oh wow, actually this is.
That's actually, Elizabeth, that's a really good point, because when I first picked up on Flexo through Buy New Zealand Made, of course, I thought, is this a different version of Lego? And I always think, well, Lego's the best. How can this be better? And then when I visited and saw the product and realized it gives round corners to things that have only been square for a century, then it's obvious, right? It actually makes all of your Lego, your existing investment, far more valuable. Plus, you can decide just to specialize in Flexo if you want, or you can use it just to augment your current collection. Yeah.
And it's not a question of having to start again with a new product that you've got to build up again. You've already got your Lego, and you're just adding to it.
In fact, there is a beautiful example of 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 16 bricks, and there may be probably 72 in this model here. and 16 bricks is Flexo, and it gives life. It just, as you beautifully said, it just adds huge value to your existing value that you've got in your brick system. It adds even more, but it doesn't have to overtake the brick numbers. It's just a small number of bricks that adds value.
And that comes back, Mark, to what you said initially around going to the physiotherapist. It's, we've got these amazing human bodies with a lot of bones in them, but they're useless without the tendons, right? It's the tendons that actually give us the movement and the flexibility. That example you just showed there with the 16 pieces, are there kids out there that are discovering ways of using the tendons and the domes and construction in a way where they then trade with others? Here, I've found out how this thing works. Is there like almost like a secondary market of, I know how to do this and I'll swap my knowledge with you, rather than just swapping the trading cards or swapping the Flexo bricks themselves?
And
well, that sounds like a new idea. Yeah.
Well, so yeah, every company that starts, from Kickstarter, it's a huge journey. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, but we have to get our quality right up there with Lego. Our clutch is a world-class clutch. We've spent so many years understanding that clutch, and most of the brick manufacturers competing against Lego haven't got the right clutch. It's a skill to do that, and that's all in your dies, and it's all in your how you go about making your product and so forth, and presenting your product, and that takes a lot of time. And we've only been at it, for a short period of time, and that's an area that we need to develop more at. Is now the breaking through into the marketing and the branding of the product and creating ideas like your trading of kids. But that's not that takes time, and it takes a skill set. And with small companies, it's all about cash flow. When can I put this extra resource in, which I desperately would like to have? No, we can't have that this year, because you know what? We'll just see if we can pay the rent and the existing, bills that we have. It's a hard, long journey, So
and at the moment, it's purchasable online at flexo.nz. Have you got any retail outlets yourself, or are you relying on stores that stock toys?
So no, we don't have any stores of our own. I think there's iBright in the South Island. Toy World has embraced us and has not embraced us. But in principle, the toy industry in New Zealand has not embraced this New Zealand product. All right, and there is a reason for that. Is we don't have a branded profile, a brand profile. We have a brand, but we haven't got a brand profile. If you walked in the street and asked 100 people, do you know about Flexo New Zealand? They'll go, who? All right, and mind you, I did walk in one shop, and we talked about Flexo, and he said, oh, I know Flexo. It was my best day I'd ever.
I walked into a classroom the other day, and I had the handbag, because I wear the handbag all the time, and one of the girls went, oh, that's Flexo. And I went, oh, I could have kissed her.
Yeah. So look, it's coming, but in principle, we don't have a brand profile. The toy industry says we cannot afford to invest in this product if it doesn't move off the shelf. So you've got to really understand the toy industry. It's about moving boxes. It's not about necessarily product. It's about marketing and advertising and, fads and all the bits and pieces that go with it. But it is a brand thing. So we are working at that. We've just co-branded with Goldie Blocks in the US. That's a really fascinating company. It's led by Debbie Sterling, and she's a Stanford University engineer, and she wants to bring girls a construction platform that they A, can relate to, and B, encourage them to grow. that would be probably our largest multi-million-dollar branding exercise that we've accomplished to date. And that's a co-branding. But we haven't got the resources or the investment finance to brand our product, Flexo, to make it a New Zealand household name. Yet.
And I think you're doing the right things. When I didn't realize you were only 3 years in operation, it struck me that you were at least 5 or 7 years with the amount of innovation that's gone into quite a complex space. I think doing the right things is doing partnerships with larger countries, larger organizations, where they've already got an established network that maybe don't have as much product innovation. So you're offering them something they don't have, but in return, you're getting a whole new generation of kids that get introduced to your product that over time, that's going to have a compound interest because it has a compound awareness around it. But you're right, it takes time.
It's a time thing, and it's a cash versus time, and you go, just like your parents, you're going, gulp. It's every month, gulp. But you only have to see one of those kids absolutely so connected. I mean, I'll never forget a person coming in. We had a table, and I think there were 13 kids, and they were going for it. And this parent walked in and said, "I can't believe this." She said, "It's so quiet." She's so quiet because they were thinking. They were focused. I mean, it's a product that's going to challenge you. And this is one of my criticisms of the toy industry, is that we're treating our children that we have to give them something that they get immediate satisfaction from this thing, instead of learning to master the item that they have and learn to grow with it. You know, that's such an important thing in STEAM learning. It's like riding a bike. You've got to put some time and energy into it. Then you master that, and then you can do all sorts of tricks with it. But it's a growing thing. But a toy to pick up. Sorry.
You're absolutely right. My friend's daughter, who was helping me with it because I got stuck. Because I wasn't reading the instructions, I thought I'll just get into it. And I thought, no, we don't need the instructions. And she said to me, let me help you. And she approached it as if it's one of those quick solves where you just follow it and get into it. And I watched, she started, and then 5 minutes later, something had shifted where she had gone into this deep concentration because it wasn't a quick solve product. It wasn't, here's $20 and it's solved 5 to 10 minutes later. 2.5 hours later, we were deeply working on it together because we had to unbuild some parts because we hadn't realized the importance of certain lengths of the tendons. And then we had worked out that we hadn't placed the tendons all the way in on certain areas. And that was just the first product. It was like 101 knowledge. I can't imagine what it's like when you start to scale that out, where, you know, those decisions then have a, you know, multiplier effect the bigger the piece of Flexo build that you want to do has. And I think we need more of that. I think in 2020, we've had 10 years of the iPad now. The average amount of time that New Zealand adults are on their phone each week is 21 hours. What are we doing for kids? And I have no problem with screens. I think they're a great thing. But what are we doing to encourage and develop the tactile way of learning? And I think something like what you've got has never been more important to have in every New Zealand home. So it has that, it has something that's different from just the swipe and tap. You've actually got to create something where, like I heard from a teacher saying that the hardest thing that she's finding is with kids that come to school and haven't built up enough muscle memory in their fingers to be able to hold a pen.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And I found, I mean, our youngest now is 17, so, you know, we're talking a few years ago, but I noticed we've got 2 older ones and then 2 younger ones, and I noticed a change between the 2 older ones and the 2 younger ones, that when friends came, they actually didn't know how to play anymore. they were so used to everything being provided and being entertained that they actually found it hard to play. It was really interesting just how there was a difference there.
What's when someone orders, let's say, the inventor set for Christmas, and ensuring that maybe no kids are listening, it's just the adults. What's going to be that experience for them on Christmas Day when they get an inventor set with, or like is it no instructions, or how do you start?
Yeah. So look, we toyed and we said, will we go against what the norm is, what Lego has said? A 60-page instruction booklet. And by the way, you're making only one thing, and we're saying no. This is about 200 or 300 pieces of bricks and some tendons. I think there's 600 or 700 tendons. This is about a playground of inventiveness. We don't want to put, instructions into this. And then we said, yes, but you're going to go against what the trend is, and are we big enough to take that, and so forth. And we then we said we couldn't actually afford to put instructions in. Do you know that is hundreds of thousands of dollars to create?
Really?
So, it's just phenomenal. And so we said, we'll go digital. We will go digital, and we'll put all we did stop motion. We got hours of stop motion videos, of showing bricks moving around high speed, and how to create things. And I like stop motion, all right? I think it's a very visual way. But we also have a level of instructions where the punter can actually, the customer can print it off in PDF, download it. But we have come since co-branding with Goldie Blocks to now provide, in fact, here would be a series of instructions that you can have. You can have a watermelon purse. Can you see that? And that's the instructions there. There's plenty of them in there. Then a friendship bracelet, and there's a lot of stuff going on in there, and that helps them. So we're going to do a combination. We want the 20% that we've talked about. We don't know if it's 18% or 25%. We're just going to say 20%. They don't need instructions. Their brains are so wired, they can pick up this stuff and be in their own universe of play. Then there are other people that need to be led along, but once they get the feel of it, like that riding of that bike, they're going to turn around and say, oh, I love this, but we all sort of, decided to make, watch straps. And I like my jeans, I'm getting more rotund like Father Christmas than I should. And so I need to change my belt sometimes. So I just make one, and I can make it my style, and I really enjoy it.
As you were talking there, I was thinking, just when you showed me the watch, there was a trend during lockdown and I don't know exactly who it is or who it was, but there were some people that kids look up to who started rollerblading because they were in lockdown for isolation. So they started rollerblading. I was walking around Wellington Harbour this afternoon, and I saw a whole school of people learning how to rollerblade. And I thought, wow, that's an Instagram trend that's shifted because of lockdown and has brought back something from the 80s. And I just thought then, I wonder what it would be like if someone who cares about fashion and had that watch and was out to 3 million people on Instagram, what would that do for Flexo's brand visibility when all of the people who look up to that singer or that actor or that dancer then want that watch and realize that they can actually make their own?
Yeah. And
who do you reckon? Who can we think of?
Yeah,
who would we recommend?
Let's talk about that afterwards. That's a really good idea. But here's the innovation we want. We want people to get this imagination going and their uniqueness. So we would be the first brick company to put a zip in bricks, and that's a pencil case, and you can.
That's a real zip.
It's a real zip. Yeah.
How was it attached?
Well, yes, I was just going to show you that.
Secret.
but Mark has made a silicone piece that then you can connect.
Yeah. So it's going to be overmold. You take a standard zip and you overmold it, and you mold the tendon onto the zip, the material zip, and then it fits beautifully into the brick construction. So, you know, all of a sudden a kid can now make its pencil case, and as it gets bigger, it can redesign the outside 1,000 times, or make it bigger, smaller, whatever they want, or put a couple of zips on each side. Again, we're not going to be held fixed. You know, this is what you're going to do. We are encouraging this incredible play of imagination. You dream it, then go build it, and you can build it.
I love it. What you guys are doing is just, it's fantastic to have this in New Zealand too, and to be bringing that level of creativity. We're already known for it as Kiwis. What I love about this is the contrast to iPad and iPhone generation of kids, and also then, Elizabeth, what you were saying there around encouraging more people into professions potentially through flexible play, not just two-dimensional play. I think it's wonderful. Before we finish up, Mark and Elizabeth, is there anything else that you want to cover, or anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
No, I have to say, so hopefully this is going to be cut out of this thing. Have really enjoyed the interview, and it's just so lovely to hear somebody who's totally connected, totally understands the concept. It surprises us how difficult it is to get the concept across. You know, a lot of people say wow, but they don't know really what Flexo, its true potential is. And you could ask the question, well, do we know? Well, we are seeing something that hasn't got an end. It's actually a very, very open play. It is STEAM learning. It's education. And education hasn't got an end either. It's a continual process of growing and growing and learning and challenging your mind. And it sits there in the product, and hopefully it's one of many products that are going to be developed for the children of the future, rather than the toys we've seen that you could yawn and say, oh, they've changed the wheel size this year. Oh gosh, the color's a bit different from last year, and so forth. We're talking about really innovative imagination construction, and you go, that's exciting. Build yourself a bow and arrow. Build yourself a bow and arrow, or make yourself a pencil case or a pair of shoes.
It's got that depth. I think I'm a curious person, and I think when I first saw it, I was not cynical, but I had my criticism antenna going. There is already a main player in this. They are already dominant. Also, it's my childhood, so don't get me to trade in my childhood. And then the second was, oh, this is interesting what it makes, but is it something that's going to, is it going to be different or better? And when I heard it was augmenting Lego, I thought, oh, this is good. I don't have to give up my childhood. This is something that can build on it. But it only really hit home, the depth of it, when I saw a young girl one was age 8 and one's age 11, fighting over who's going to finish this, and struggling with it and having to go into the instruction manual. I was like, wow, this, because it's not a complex piece. That fish, there wasn't that many pieces to it. It's small, and yet we were 2.5 hours in, before, during, and after dinner, and it still wasn't done. I thought, that's the complexity, that's the depth of it, and that's why this has got real longevity to it. But that's why it's also really hard to get the awareness started. And I think that's the exciting part, is if you can solve that, then there is no limit to it.
Well, the toy makers say it's too fiddly and it's too hard. And I go, please don't talk that way. You know what? What makes great people, what makes humanity the exception, the fantastic thing that we have is we've had to go through a bit of pain or learning to achieve something. And when we master it, we do all sorts of amazing things, like that girl tumbling on that mat. I mean, I like watching it on TV. I couldn't get on that mat and do anything that girl could do. But she worked hard and sacrificed and had the passion and tenacity to go forward and constantly challenge herself. That's what makes humanity great when we do that,
The word that comes to me, and it's a word that they're using a lot in schools at the moment, is resilience. I think it helps to build resilience.
Yep.
I love it. Thank you so much to both of you for your time today. We could talk for ages on Flexo because it is that unlimited play tool.